Do we need Ms. Hollins?
Yeah, I'm sorry, she had to step out very briefly. Personally, she was her.
Okay, very briefly, what?
Your Honor, the state is going to call Dr. Krotolski. Ms. Hollins crossed Dr. Carney on his 2/25/2023 urine at 22:59. She says was incorrect and the time change is wrong. CFSRE never tested that urine that was later changed, and the state has a duty to correct the misrepresentation of the evidence and what the CFSRE reports
Okay.
show.
Sorry, let Dr. Toxicology. You let the jury step in. All right, you'll step up.
You swear the testimony you're about to give to be the truth, so.
Yes,
Dr. Krotolski, could you please state and spell your name for the record, please?
Yes, my name is Alex, A-L-E-X, Kortulski, K-R-O-T-U-L-S-K-I.
And what is your profession?
I am a forensic toxicologist.
How long have you been a forensic toxicologist?
I've been a forensic toxicologist for about 11 years, and I've worked at the laboratory where I work now for all of those 11 years.
Okay, where do you work?
I work at a nonprofit forensic laboratory called the Center for Forensic Science Research and Education.
And what connection does that have to NMS Labs?
Yeah, so we are a nonprofit forensic laboratory. NMS Labs is a for-profit forensic laboratory. The two of our forensic labs are actually in the same building. NMS is in the front half of the building. We're in the back half of the building. We do have some connections through the family and through the forensic toxicologist that founded NMS Labs, but we are two unique laboratories and two unique organizations.
And what is your title with CFSRE?
My current title is Director of Forensic Toxicology and Chemistry.
Okay, how long have you held that title?
I've held that title as director for about 3 years, and prior to that had a title of Associate Director for also about 3 years.
And can you describe your job to the jury at CFSRE, please?
Yes. So I am a manager and a supervisor. I oversee a team of about 10 people, including 5 full-time forensic toxicologists. So as a research and educational facility, I do perform research in forensic toxicology and forensic science. I also teach and educate as part of our graduate programs that we have with universities in Pennsylvania. And then pertinent to this case, we also run forensic cases. So we bring in, under chain of custody, forensic evidence, process that through the tests and the methods that we have in our laboratory, and report out those results through forensic reports.
And what type of education do you have? Can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Yes. So my latest degree is a Doctorate of Philosophy in Chemistry, in which I did my dissertation related to forensic toxicology. I also have a master's degree in forensic science. And I also have a bachelor's degree in chemistry as well.
What is that?
So the document you just passed me is my CV, or my curriculum vitae.
Okay. Are you required to have ongoing training?
Yes, as part of really the field of forensic science as a whole, forensic scientists continue their professional education, whether that be through courses that we take, through conferences that we attend every year, or through a variety of other means like reading journal articles and whatnot.
And have you ever testified as an expert in toxicology?
I have, yes.
Okay, about how many times?
Once before.
Your Honor, at this time, I could make Dr. Krotulski's CV the State Sex Exhibit 33
Okay.
and tender him as an expert in toxicology.
No objection.
Okay. All right, again, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Kukulski will be allowed to give his opinion as an expert in that field and place such weight as you choose to apply. Okay.
Dr. Krotulski, did you get involved in a case involving a patient, Jade Benning?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall about when you became involved with Jade Benning's cases?
Yes, that was in March of 2023.
Okay, and how did you become involved?
At that time, our laboratory takes in cases generally for different unique scenarios. We do testing for a variety of different drugs and toxins in the field of forensic toxicology. So generally, the way we get involved in cases is that there are biological specimens, whether that be blood, urine, whatever it may be, that need advanced toxicology testing. So with our relationship with NMS Labs had contacted us about samples that they had that they were interested in getting additional testing performed on, and that's how our laboratory got involved.
Okay, did you also talk to Vanderbilt doctors?
Yes, I talked to Dr. Grucolaria as well at Vanderbilt.
Okay, and did you issue a few reports in regards to Ms. Benning's urine?
Yes.
Okay. All right, it's time to pass. Dr. Krotulski, what did I just hand you?
You handed me 2 different reports. One report for a urine sample that we tested, and one report for a blood sample that we tested.
Oh, I'm sorry. What is the case number?
The case number for the urine is 2023-0092. The case for the blood is 2023-00989. Sorry.
these are pretty thick. Can you explain to the jury what is with the report?
Yes. So this second report that I was handed is for a second urine specimen that we tested, 2023-0090. These are the reports. The first 2 pages, or 1 page, is the report that we issue after our testing. That report consolidates all the information about who submitted the sample to us, what samples we received, what our results were, what testing we performed, as well as some reference comments as to the substances we identified. And then the rest of the page is the rest of the packet for the case. There are a few pages that include the chain of custody, as well as the sample preparation documents that we use to prepare the samples in the laboratory for analysis. And then the bulk rest of the pages are the data associated with the identifications for the drugs that we made.
And are both those samples involving Ms. Jade Benning, or both those reports?
Yes.
Okay. And do you commonly refer to them as litigation packets?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time, I would like to mark those 2 reports as the state's next exhibit 34 and 35, please.
No objection.
Okay. Which you want to delineate?
34, Your Honor, that could be 0092, and 35 be 0090. They're
Different
the
data.
report numbers. No, sir.
Okay.
Your Honor, if I could publish it for the witness, we have it on a PowerPoint.
Okay.
Dr. Krutulski, can you walk the jury through this first page and what we're looking at and what kind of identifying information is on this page?
Yes. At the top, you can see that this is the toxicology report that we issued. That's the logo for our laboratory, as well as the date that we issued it. So it was issued in July 18th, 2023. This report was issued to Dr. Rebecca Brucolari at Vanderbilt University Medical Center. On the top right there are the different case numbers associated with the case. So every agency is going to assign generally their own case number to a case. So our laboratory assigned our case number, the CFSRE case number, but then there were additional case numbers, including the NMS case number, as well as the agency's case number that we include as well. Next down under items received is the item that we received for that case number. In this case, under the description, you can see that it was 1 vial containing urine. The next section is the results and conclusions. So these are the substances that we've identified. In this case, the analytes, benzolecgonine, norcocaine, and cocaine. Under concentration, our laboratory does at times perform quantitative testing, so there would be values for the quantitative analysis there. However, this testing that we performed was just qualitative, so it just says positive, meaning that the substance was identified and was positively present in the sample. Under methods of analysis is the instrumentation that we use for testing. Under reference comments are generally short blurbs about the substances that we've identified. So if anyone's reading the report and they see the term benzolecgonine and they don't know what that is, they can correlate that under reference comments. And I'm so sorry, I did not mean to. Next is laboratory comments. That just says that we took the sample into our possession under chain of custody, seals and everything were in order. And also notes that when we discard the specimens. And then finally at the bottom is again the case number, the date that we're signing this, my signature, as well as another toxicologist signature at our laboratory.
And Dr. Krutulski, you've already talked about how you were in communications with Vanderbilt. From your knowledge, when was this first sample taken?
So in my communications with Dr. Brucolari, it's my understanding that this was the first urine specimen collected when the individual presented to the hospital.
Okay. And if medical records have previously been introduced and that first urine was at 2259 on 2/25/2023, would that be correct?
Yes, that's consistent with my understanding.
Okay. Can you walk the jury through your findings for this first urine of Ms. Benning?
Yes. So I will go in reverse order because it will make, I think, a little bit more sense. The bottom substance there is cocaine. So cocaine is a stimulant drug. We identified parent cocaine within this urine sample, as well as norcocaine and benzolecgonine. Those two are metabolites of cocaine.
Okay. And did this specific test for E&E?
No, our testing does not include ecgonine methyl ester, which is another metabolite of cocaine.
And can you walk the jury through how many drugs and what kind of testing this specific urine was tested against?
Yes, I don't recall the exact number. Our laboratory is constantly adding drugs to our method of detection. Currently, we test for more than 1,300 substances. This time in 2023, our scope was probably around 1,100 substances. And if the substance is not listed on this report, it means it was not identified through the testing process.
Okay, so we can say out of at least 1,100 drugs, the only one that was tested positive was cocaine.
And its metabolites, correct.
Yes. And what, if any, what is your threshold for cocaine and the metabolites for a urine sample?
Yeah, our cocaine threshold is about 20 nanograms per milliliter. Sorry, I don't believe I said that correctly. Our threshold for cocaine in urine is about 20 nanograms per milliliter. That would be the same for its metabolite norcocaine. However, benzyl ecgonine has some different chemical properties, and our testing limit for that is about 100 nanograms per milliliter.
And from your discussions with Dr. Brugaleri, what were you advised that Vanderbilt's threshold was?
Yeah, so it's my understanding that in the hospital, as many hospitals do, they perform a urine drug screen. That's done by a different type of test than we perform. That's done by something called immunoassay. Whereas our testing is performed by mass spectrometry. Through my conversations with Dr. Brugaleri, it was my understanding that the cutoff for benzyl ecgonine in the hospital was 300 nanograms per milliliter. And again, our cutoff was 100 nanograms per milliliter.
So is it consistent that if Ms. Benning's blood or urine tested in the hospital negative, but then was positive with you, is that consistent with just the different thresholds and Vanderbilt being much higher?
Yeah, so when you have differences in thresholds, you can have concentrations that are between those thresholds. So one laboratory may report it negative because it's below their threshold, and another laboratory may report it positive because it's above their threshold. Both of our tests were not quantitative, though, so we don't know exactly how much benzyl ecgonine was in this sample. However, based on the data that we have from our test, we can see, based on some of the characteristics of the data that we look at, that it's my opinion that it looks like the amount of benzyl ecgonine likely was between our two thresholds, and that's why our result was positive and their result was negative.
And before I move on, can you walk the jury through what typical effects of cocaine are and then what the severe effects of cocaine are?
Sure. So cocaine is a stimulant drug, so it does a lot of things to stimulate your body. Certainly people use cocaine for its euphoria and its high feeling, but when you get to some of the sort of clinical signs and symptoms, it can do things like increase your heart rate, increase your blood pressure, increase your temperature. It can make people more talkative, more movement. It can, in higher amounts, or for some people, it can cause sort of agitation and anxiety. And in more severe cases, especially with the effects on the heart, you can have sort of detrimental cardiac effects because of that increased cardiac output. Cocaine has been associated with seizures as well as other more bad side effects, if you will, of cocaine at either chronic use or at higher amounts.
And can you tell the jury what the common forms of someone taking cocaine would be?
Yeah, so in the United States, cocaine is primarily found in two forms, cocaine salt and cocaine base. So the basic form of cocaine is known as crack or crack rocks. Crack rocks are generally smoked. The salt form of cocaine, or known as coke, is a powdered form that people typically snort.
Okay. Is oral ingestion of cocaine common?
No, from my experience, oral ingestion of cocaine is not common.
Okay. And for symptoms and side effects, how would oral ingestion of cocaine differ from IV, snorting, something like that?
Yeah, so the manner in which drugs enter the body is really going to be dependent on potentially how quickly those drugs affect an individual and how quickly those drugs can get to the brain. So something like snorting or smoking is going to have a much quicker onset of actions, whereas if you ingest something orally and it goes to the stomach, you have to get it then absorbed into your body. Some of that drug could break down in your stomach acid. So there's different effects and how quickly the substances can affect an individual based on the route of administration. But then also there's other things that can be important about how the drug is metabolized or how it's breaking down throughout the body based on the route of administration as well.
And in preparation for this trial, did you research to see if you could find any sort of studies on oral ingestion of a liquid cocaine?
Yes, I did.
Okay, were you able to find any studies for liquid cocaine?
I did not. There are a few studies that have looked at oral cocaine administration, but typically they're through capsules or tablets, in large part because that's how a lot of substances are taken orally, as capsules or tablets. I could not find any studies looking at liquid cocaine oral administration to humans.
Okay. And I want to talk to you about your research that you found for capsules. Can you walk the jury through how quickly symptoms appeared in your research?
So in those studies, they looked at sort of the symptomology of individuals, but then also the peak plasma levels. So plasma is sort of a form of blood in terms of the way that drugs are in the body. They collect blood and then can convert it to plasma. So they found, one of the studies found that the peak plasma concentrations were between 50 and 90 minutes. And that just means that the cocaine has gotten into the bloodstream, it's circulating around the body, and as they test serial amounts of, serial meaning replicate amounts of blood over time, that in 50 and 90 minutes it was the highest amount of cocaine, and then it started falling down.
Okay, and is it your opinion that liquid cocaine would work quicker than capsules?
Yes, when you have a capsule has to get into your stomach, the capsule has to be broken apart, in order for those substances to then be absorbed into the body. A liquid form of the drug, generally compared to a capsule or a tablet, that liquid is already ready to be absorbed, so that process can be a bit quicker.
Okay, so if we have Ms. Benning, who at 9:10 is painting words on a canvas, 9:25, a photo of a new word that she has painted on a canvas, and then we have a lieu of about 4 minutes of taking photos, and then 9:29, so about 19 minutes from that 9:10 to that 9:29, there's a phone call, and it's 6 minutes long. At the beginning of the phone call, you can understand Ms. Benning for the most part, and by the end of it, you cannot understand her. During that phone call, she's saying things like, "I can't feel my legs," and then by 9:50, when EMS finds her, she's pulseless. From that 9:10 to that 9:50, is it consistent with a 30-minute window of Ms. Benning ingesting that cocaine and then feeling those side effects and becoming pulseless?
Yes, as I mentioned, you can get peak cocaine concentrations orally in about 50 to 90 minutes. So the effects certainly are presenting sooner than that. So that is consistent with that time frame and that the results or the data that's in the scientific literature.
Yes, and you're saying it would be less than that time with the capsules, that 30-minute time frame for us is consistent because it was not capsules.
Yes, generally, the drug does not have to be absorbed or taken out of a capsule or a tablet. That time frame can be shorter.
And going back to the test result, is fentanyl one of the 1,100 drugs at minimum that you tested this urine for?
Yes.
And was fentanyl present?
No, fentanyl was not detected in this urine sample.
Okay, what about cocoethylene?
Yeah, so cocoethylene was also and is also in the scope of our testing, and it was not detected in this specimen.
Okay, and so I just want to be very clear for the jury, cocaine and only cocaine metabolites tested positive for this 225, 2023, and 2259 urine.
Correct.
And Vanderbilt's threshold was 300 and was only testing for the benzo, is that correct?
So the way that immunoassays work, they have a target substance, and generally in urine immunoassays, that target substance for cocaine is benzoylecgonine. Some of the other metabolites will have cross-reactivity, so their amounts could sort of combined in total potentially reach that threshold. But in this case, with the result being none detected, those combined amounts of the substances still did not reach the threshold for them to produce a positive result.
Your Honor, if I could have the witness pass exhibit number 32, please. Dr. Kuczynski, you are being handed State's Exhibit number 32, which is Ms. Benning's autopsy report. Are you familiar with any sort of addition that for cocaine, the parent cocaine and the EME being added, and what that can give you as an estimate?
Yes, I am familiar with that practice. Again, ethylene methyl ester, or EME, is also a metabolite of cocaine. So it's a practice in which you can, or where folks will add the parent and the metabolite together to get an estimation of potentially how much of the parent drug could have been present if it hadn't broken down to that metabolite in this case.
And if you could, Dr. Kurtulski, get to that lab result in the autopsy report, please. And could you tell the jury what the EME and the cocaine was, and then how we would get to that number of the estimated concentration of cocaine in Ms. Benning's blood that night?
Yes, this is the NMS Labs Toxicology Lab report. That reports cocaine at 78 nanograms per milliliter and the ethylene methyl ester at 7,800 nanograms per milliliter.
Okay, and what would that bring us to if we were doing that addition?
So if you were to do that addition of the two, it would be about 8,000 nanograms per milliliter.
Okay, and is 8,000 nanograms per milliliter a high concentration of cocaine?
Yes, if there was 8,000 nanograms per milliliter of cocaine in someone's system, that would definitely be considered, in my opinion, a high amount of cocaine.
What is typical that you see? Do you see anywhere near 8,000 nanograms per milliliter on a daily basis?
So we do quantify cocaine in blood samples, not as routinely as NMS does. I do not recall what the highest amount of cocaine we've seen in a blood sample is, but I would think that we have seen concentrations of cocaine in the thousands. I just don't know exactly what those concentrations are.
Dr. Kurtulski, what are we looking at now?
On the screen now is the second report.
Okay. And from your discussions with Vanderbilt, do you know if Ms. Benning, if this report was after Ms. Benning had been treated in Vanderbilt?
Yes, it's my understanding, and talking with the individuals at Vanderbilt, that the first urine sample was collected prior to the individual being given drugs in the hospital, and the second sample was collected after those drugs had been administered in the hospital, which is consistent with the results that we found.
Okay, and can you walk the jury through what medications, if you want to touch your screen, would Ms. Benning have received in the hospital, and how you know they're medical grade medications?
Sure. From our perspective, when we test for drugs, a drug molecule that we see, you don't necessarily know if it's medical grade or not. As that's oftentimes why we'll consult with the individuals at the hospital to understand what substances the hospital is administering, but also through sort of my experience in dealing with these cases, many hospitals administer the same drug, so it's something that we can kind of see reproducibly. So one of the first substances, acetaminophen, that was really bad. Acetaminophen is a drug that can be administered in the hospital. Acetaminophen is Tylenol. Levetiracetam, which is an anticonvulsant, also known as Keppra, can be administered in the hospital.
And Dr. Kurtulski, I'm going to stop you right there. Are seizures a side effect of ingesting cocaine?
Yes, as I previously mentioned, seizures can be associated with cocaine toxicity.
Thank you.
Next on the list is lorazepam. Lorazepam is a benzodiazepine, which is also, benzodiazepines can also be administered as anticonvulsants for seizures. And then fentanyl. Fentanyl is an opioid, Many people know about fentanyl because of its illicit uses in the street drug supply. However, fentanyl is actually a common opioid analgesic used in the hospital as well.
And is it your understanding that Ms. Benning received fentanyl at Vanderbilt University Medical Center?
Yes, that's my understanding.
And that Ms. Benning had no fentanyl in her when she got to Vanderbilt Medical Center?
So based on the testing that we performed, there was no fentanyl in the first urine sample that we tested.
I want to draw your attention to levamisole. Can you talk to the jury about what you know about levamisole and its importance to cocaine?
Yes, levamisole is, while it has uses in animal medicine, it's something that we call an adulterant. So a lot of times drugs within the street level drug supply will be adulterated and things will be added to them, a lot of times to sometimes help with side effects, but sometimes make the high that those drugs produce better. So in this case, or levamisole but in this scenario, levamisole is a substance that we see as an adulterant alongside cocaine in the street drug supply.
And is levamisole a common cutting agent of cocaine?
Yes, levamisole is as well as lidocaine are common cutting agents for cocaine.
Okay, and what would be the explanation of why Ms. Benning's first urine, when she initially got to Vanderbilt, did not have levamisole in it?
Yeah, so I reviewed the results for the two urine samples, and as I mentioned previously, during our testing, aspects of the data can show us, while we don't quantify the amount of cocaine, how high or low that level is. The amount of cocaine that we detected in this second urine sample is much higher, as well as some of the other substances as well. So it is possible that because the amount of cocaine was lower in the first urine sample, the cocaine or the levamisole may not have accumulated or been excreted in the urine sample yet. So levamisole may have been there but below our detection limits. Whereas in this later sample, as more cocaine is being excreted from the body and put into the urine, it's rising above and potentially then is above our threshold, and we're able to detect it in this sample.
And is that common to initially get a low threshold cocaine and then later on get a levamisole?
Yes, the way that drugs are excreted into the urine, when you first take a drug, there will be no drug in the urine. So you'll start out at zero. As the drug is metabolized, then the parent drug as well is excreted into the urine. Those concentrations increase. And eventually, as the bladder is emptied and the drug is sort of cleared from the body and there's no more drug to excrete into the urine, those concentrations then will go back down. So that is consistent with sort of that trajectory.
And do you know how low the levamisole was in this urine?
I do not recall, but I know that it was significantly smaller than the cocaine.
Let's talk about cocoethylene. What can you tell the jury about cocoethylene?
So cocoethylene is an interesting substance in that it forms in the co-ingestion of cocaine and ethanol.
Okay. Was cocoethylene present in Ms. Benning's first blood or first urine?
No, it was not present, but similar to the explanation I gave for levamisole, it could be that it was present but below our detection limits, therefore we weren't able to see it because maybe it hadn't been excreted fully yet.
And do you know how low this sample of cocoethylene is in Ms. Benning's urine?
Yeah, so I did take a look at that, and again, comparing those responses that we get from the instrument, the amount of cocoethylene that we detected was about 1% of the amount of cocaine. So again, quite a small amount of cocoethylene compared to the amount of cocaine that we saw in this urine sample.
And this 1% of cocoethylene, would that be consistent with Ms. Benning drinking alcohol and then taking a bump of cocaine?
So from my experience in those scenarios, you wouldn't have that small amount of cocoethylene, although it does depend on sort of the timing of when the urine sample was collected. But generally, when we see cocoethylene with people who are co-using larger amounts of alcohol, we do see it at more appreciable amounts than the small amount that we saw in this sample.
Can you dissolve cocaine in alcohol to make it a liquid cocaine?
Yes, cocaine, like many drugs, are dissolvable in what we call solvents, and ethanol would be an example of a solvent.
Dr. Krotulski, was cocoethylene present in any other samples for Ms. Benning that you tested?
No, it was not. Cocoethylene was only detected in this specimen.
Right. And we talked about the hypothetical about or Ms. Benning's timeline. Would you expect to see more cocoethylene if Ms. Benning had been drinking alcohol?
So in cases where we do collect urine samples from people who have been drinking alcohol and using cocaine, I would say typically those amounts of cocoethylene are larger. But again, there's a variety of different reasons as to how the level of cocoethylene could be in this case, including the dose of the substances, not only the cocaine and the ethanol, but also the time associated with it.
Okay, and for that first urine to only have cocaine, benzo, and then the other metabolite, but no cocoethylene. If she had been drinking heavily and doing cocaine, would you expect to see that cocoethylene reporting above the threshold?
Yeah, so she was drinking and taking cocaine together. I would have expected to see the cocoethylene in that first urine sample.
And is it your understanding that through all the other testing of Ms. Benning at Vanderbilt, that there was no alcohol present in her system?
Yes, it's my understanding, and through talking with the toxicologist at NMS Labs and Dr. Brucaleri at Vanderbilt, that the ethanol testing that had been performed by the other laboratories was negative.
And Dr. Krotulski, is there any other explanation other than just drinking alcohol, it being dissolved in alcohol, that you could get that cocoethylene?
Yes, there are other ways that small amounts of ethanol can get into your system. Some other drugs that are used may have ethanol as a minor component in them. There are some things that may be used in foods that could have small amounts of ethanol in them. So there are other ways that ethanol can get into your system other than drinking beer or other forms of drinking alcohol.
And is that consistent with how low Ms. Benning's cocoethylene percent is at, and then we don't see it again?
Yes, I would say that would be more consistent.
Right, and could it be used in cooking for like homemade cookies with vanilla extract or something like that? Could that low reporting level of cocoethylene be consistent with Ms. Benning have cooked that night?
Yes, I'd say that could be consistent.
Governor, if you'll give me one moment. Carter, those are all my questions.
Questions on behalf of the defense?
Good afternoon, is it Dr. Krotulski?
Yes.
I'm Letitia Quinones-Hollins, and I just have a few questions for you. I first want to ask you about your forensic toxicology certifications. Did you have to go to school to become a forensic toxicologist?
So forensic toxicologist is a job, just like an electrician would be a job, or just like a chemist would be a job. So generally, there's a variety of different programs that train individuals to become forensic toxicologists. There's a variety of different ways you can get to being a forensic toxicologist without a degree in forensic toxicology. In the United States, there are no PhD programs in forensic toxicology, so many of us who have our PhDs and work in forensic toxicology get our degrees in areas like chemistry, pharmacology, sort of general toxicology, one of those other fields.
So have you had training in toxicology?
Yes, I have a master's degree in which I spent 2 years learning about forensic toxicology. I've done a variety of different research work related to forensic toxicology. I also have on-site training. So in addition to the time I've spent at the CFSRA, I actually did also work at NMS Labs for a short period of time and received training as part of that at NMS Labs. So I have received training both through on-the-job training as well as educational training to be a forensic toxicologist.
And in order to be classified and certified as a forensic toxicology, it took many hours and a lot of time dealing with toxicology to be able to be qualified as a forensic toxicologist. Would you agree?
I guess I would. It certainly has been a lot of time and education that I've gone through. The field of forensic toxicology is made up really of three separate fields: analytical chemistry, forensic science, and toxicology itself. So it's learning about all those different aspects and pulling all that together to become forensic toxicology.
Thank you. Now, I want to draw your attention to, I believe that the first testing from the 2259 urine, where it's labeled 20230092 from the CFSRE.
Yes.
And I see there that we have positive results for what they call BZE, is that right?
Correct. Benzoylacogene is called BZE for short.
Norcocaine,
Correct.
which is another metabolite for cocaine,
Yes.
and then of course the parent cocaine.
Yes.
Why would you say that I wouldn't see something here for like heroin?
Heroin is a substance called diacetylmorphine. It metabolizes to 6-monoacetylmorphine and morphine. And those substances are included in our scope of testing. So I would expect if they were present in the urine at our thresholds that we would be able to detect them and report them.
Okay. So the fact that that isn't there, it means that it doesn't appear that it was in this matrix of the urine. Is that correct?
Correct.
And my point with that is that when you go now to 20230090, we see cocaethylene. Is that correct?
Correct.
And just so that we're sure, this is the urine in 20230090 of Miss Jade Benning. Is that right?
Yes, I believe that's correct.
And so we see that cocaethylene is in fact positive, right?
Yes, and we're talking about the second urine sample that was collected.
Yes, the 20230090.
Yes.
Yes, okay. Now, you said the second urine sample. When was that taken from Ms. Benning?
As forensic toxicologists in our labs, we take in samples and they come with a variety of different information. In this case, the case was not given to me with the date and time collected, so it's not something that appears on our report. That's something I would refer back to the folks either at Vanderbilt or also, I believe that information is on NMS Lab's report.
Okay. You believe that it's on NMS Lab report?
I believe it's included in their report, yes.
Okay, and that's NMS Lab report 896, based on where it says, I'm sorry, 899. NMS work order number is 230-78899. Is that correct?
So I don't have the reports in front of me, and with all of the numbers, I'm having a little hard time following.
CFSRE.
Yes, if that is, I do not have that report in front of me. If that was the, yeah.
This packet of yours have that.
Sorry, yes, the packet that you have. Oh, yes, thank you. Yeah, so this for this report, 2023-0090, which is our CFSRE case number, that is associated with NMS work order number 23078899.
So, as it relates to the urine where we see cocaethylene, you don't know what time it was taken. Is that right?
Correct. As part of our responsibility as a forensic toxicology lab, we bring the samples in, and it's our responsibility to report the results out. It's not our responsibility to keep track of when the samples were collected and to sort of marry up that information. It's our responsibility to do the drug testing and report the drugs that we find.
So is that a no, sir? You don't know what time it was taken?
Off the top of my head, no, I don't.
Okay. And so,
Is there any of your records that would tell you that?
No, so our records do not. So you would correlate back our case number with the NMS Labs case number and the agency case number and the information they had in terms of when the specimens were collected. So that's NMS Labs or Vanderbilt's information about when the samples were collected.
so you can't say it wasn't taken at 2259 or that it was, as the information that you have before you at this time.
Again, that's not my role. Our role is forensic toxicologist.
I'm just asking.
Okay, yes.
Yes. Now, irregardless of when it was taken, this is the urine of Jade Benning, right?
From my understanding, yes, this is the based on the conversations I've had with Dr. Rebecca Bruccolari at Vanderbilt.
Okay. And so in the same manner that you don't see, I think you called it levamisole, which is a cutting agent for cocaine, right?
Yes.
The same way you don't see levamisole in your initial testing of 202300092 is the same manner for which you don't see cocaethylene, right?
Yes, as I explained before, in order for us to have a positive result, there needs to be enough of the drug or the metabolite in the urine sample to meet a threshold for us to detect it. So it is possible that they were present in the urine, however, below our thresholds to detect it, so therefore we would not report them as a positive result.
Nonetheless, you have those two different metabolites that weren't present in your first results that are present in the second. Yes or no, sir?
That is correct. However, I think it's important to note that these are not replicate samples, so we don't expect to have the same results in both urine samples. These urine samples are collected at different times. We have different results because we know that there were drugs that were administered in the hospital that we don't expect in the first sample that we do expect in the second sample.
We wouldn't expect for Vanderbilt to give someone something that would cause them to test positive for cocaethylene, or would we?
So again, depending on whether or not cocaethylene was present but below our detection limits in that first sample, or whether or not the cocaethylene was formed after, that's not something that I can speak to because we don't have information about that, but it could be really either of those scenarios, or potentially either of those scenarios or others.
Okay, the statement that you just made was that Vanderbilt had treated Ms. Benning, and so that's why you'll see a difference in what is present in her urine in this later sample than you would in the first sample, right?
Yes, I said that referring to the drugs that would be administered in the hospital, things like levetiracetam, fentanyl, lorazepam, those substances that are medical grade drugs.
Are they administering cocaethylene, do you believe, at Vanderbilt?
No, I would not believe they would be administering cocaethylene at Vanderbilt.
And so, if we see this in her system, then it is safe to say to this jury that she had to get it from somewhere other than the treatment she received at Vanderbilt. Wouldn't that be right?
And I apologize if I hadn't explained this well, but cocaethylene is really not a substance that's available out there. People don't go out on the street and buy cocaethylene. You can't sort of get it as a prescription drug. Cocaethylene is something that's formed in the body when someone uses cocaine and ethanol. So again, this wouldn't be something that could be administered. This wouldn't be something that is ingested. It's something that's formed through those two substances.
Exactly. That person would have had to have ethanol and cocaine in their system at the same time. Yes or no, sir?
Correct, yes.
Now, so what we do know, and the reason I gave you the hypothetical of the heroin is because the only reason that it's going to show up positive is because there was alcohol and cocaine taken at the same time from Ms. Benning, right? That's why your testing came positive. Yes or no, sir?
So I don't want to confuse the terms ethanol and alcohol. Ethanol is a small molecule. Alcohol, while we refer to drinking alcohol as alcohol, alcohol is really a class of substances. Methanol, for example, is also an alcohol, and there's other alcohols as well. So what I'm saying is that cocaine and ethanol come together to form cocaethylene. The source of that ethanol, as I previously testified to, is unknown, but there are different sources as to where that ethanol could come from.
Right. You said that it could have come from the vanilla extract that she put in her cookies.
I didn't say that. I said it could come from different things that are used in cooking. Could also come from, again, ethanol could be a minor component in some medications that are used. I didn't necessarily say it came from a certain a certain place. We don't necessarily know where that ethanol may have come from.
Well, actually, the prosecutor actually asked you, could it come from the vanilla extract? And your response was, yes, it could have.
Correct. She said could, and I said yes.
And that was my question, because you just said earlier that it could have come from vanilla extract.
I apologize. I thought you were asking me if I said that it did come from the cookies.
No,
which I did not.
you said it could have. But it also.
Hypothetically,
It could have come from her having a drink and then also taking cocaine, couldn't it?
Yes, that is possible, again, depending on the amount of ethanol consumed. Ethanol can come from, as I mentioned, those other sources. It also can come from drinking alcohol as well.
Now, do you know what a screen test is, sir?
Yes, I do.
And what is that?
So in forensic toxicology, typically we do two tests. Historically, we referred to them as a screen and a confirmation. Screen is a way of saying, okay, well, I've tested this substance, usually for I tested this sample, usually for a large array of substances, and then we know what's present, and then we take that through a confirmation test, which is then usually quantitative in nature. So typically in forensic toxicology, you would do those two tests, a screening test and a confirmation.
And so, is it fair to say that you don't go, a lab would not go past a screen test to a confirmation test unless something is coming up positive in that screen? Is that correct?
Yeah, so the field of forensic toxicology has really advanced in recent years. Historically, when we thought about screening tests were usually things that were not very accurate. They may have tested for a class of drugs and you would get a positive result and you have to figure out why you got that positive result. A good example would be if you tested for benzodiazepines and got a positive result for benzodiazepines, you may have to do a confirmation to say, well, what exact benzodiazepine am I looking for? But as forensic toxicology has advanced, some have tried to get away from the term screening and confirmation because a lot of the instruments that we use now for screening tests are actually a lot more accurate and sensitive than they've previously been, but also sometimes are more accurate and sensitive than the instruments that we use for our confirmation tests. So typically, now you really have to understand what specimens were provided to the forensic toxicology lab and really understand what their methodology for testing was. It's not as easy to paint it with a broad brush to say, oh, absolutely this was a screen or absolutely this was a confirmation.
Well, you're not telling this jury, sir, that your laboratory would be using something that you can't rely on and or is not credible, are you? Are you saying that?
I'm not sure what you're referring to, and no, I'm not saying that.
Okay, and so I would assume and hope that whatever immunoassay testing or whatever testing that you are performing at your laboratory would be one that is credible and reliable for you to represent to the community and your clients that trust you. Is that right?
Yeah, so we do not rely on the results of other toxicology labs. We perform all of our own testing in-house. When a sample comes to us, we may have heard of testing that's been performed externally, but we perform all of our own testing in-house. And then yes, to your point about our methods being accurate and reliable, we validate our assays, we run quality controls and different checks during our testing to make sure that the results that we are reporting meet a level of high forensic reliability.
And so your assay, the ones that you rely on and the ones that you deem credible, tested positive for this coca-ethylene, right?
Correct, the second urine specimen.
Now, in regards to the NMS lab, you see, if I can draw your attention to the 889, and we just talked about that you don't move on to a confirmation test unless there was something that was positive in the screening test, correct?
Yeah, again, to
Yes
try.
or no, sir?
Well, so I think that you're trying to use the terms screening and confirmation for the tests that we performed. Our laboratory really does not define them as a screen and a confirmation. The tests that we perform, we define as a drug identification. So we did not perform two tests. We performed a single test, a drug identification of these substances. I would not characterize it as a screen or a confirmation.
I wasn't speaking about your test. I asked you to look at 889 of NMS.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. When you use the 4 numbers, I thought you were referring to my report. Yes, and I do not have a copy of NMS Labs report.
Okay, can I?
It's in the autopsy report, Dr.
Oh.
If you have that.
I apologize. I do have that in front of me.
Yes. You see there that NMS moved on to a confirmation test for coca-ethylene. Do you see that?
Can I just ask a clarifying question? So I'm looking at an NMS Labs toxicology report that has a work order number that ends in 6889.
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yes, sir. And did you see a confirmation test performed for cocaethylene?
So this is really getting slightly outside of the testing that we performed, again, because this is the testing that another laboratory performed. NMS Labs lists the tests that they performed, and they listed they included a cocaine and byproducts panel. So from looking at the report, it does appear that they would have looked for cocaine in those byproducts, but again, I cannot testify today to exactly what NMS Labs did. I don't have their data and their results in front of me. My testimony is really about the testing that occurred at the CFSRE.
I'm not asking you about the data that they utilize. I'm asking you, with your expertise, as you being a forensic toxicologist expert, is to only share with me about looking at this toxicology report. And so that I'm clear, you're an expert in the field of
Judge, I'm going to
toxicology.
object to ask and answer. He's already testified that
You
he's
know
not.
what that lab means by screen test.
So again, I mean, I'm happy to sit here and look through the report. Certainly they will lay out what testing that they used and what testing was performed. But again, this was not within the scope of what I prepared for this testimony. I mean, I'm happy to take a look at it.
Would you do that for me, please? Just to see whether or not there was a confirmation test performed for cocaethylene. Would you please do that?
Again, based on the report says testing was performed for cocaine and byproducts panel. Let me. And if you look then to 2 pages later where they describe what's in the cocaine and byproducts panel, it does list cocaethylene as an analyte within the scope of that testing, yes.
Thank you. And that's for the scope of testing on a confirmation, correct?
I believe NMS would characterize this test as a confirmation test, yes.
Okay, thank you. Now, let's talk a little bit about the CFSRE lab. Do you see that?
Yes, by laboratory, yes.
And the number in regards to
You want 0092 or 0090?
0090 for the cocaethylene that's present there, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, when the testing was performed for this particular urine, do you know whether or not the levels for any of those metabolites, do you have those levels?
No, so for our testing, our laboratory, while we obviously test for cocaine and these substances, in this case, when we received the specimen, we received our qualitative results and issued those results back. We were not asked to perform a quantitative test. We typically wouldn't just do that on our own. And there was no request for us to perform a quantitative test. So in this case, we did just perform a qualitative identification of cocaine in the metabolites.
Okay, so you didn't perform a test to give us levels, is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, so you can't tell us what level that cocaethylene is, can you?
So with exact certainty, the exact concentration of that cocaethylene, no, I cannot tell you what the concentration is. However, as I mentioned previously, and is present in our data packet, there are pieces of the data, what we call peak area. So as every analyte is detected by the instrument, it generates a response. And that response is proportional to the amount of drug that is present. So a higher response means more drug, a lower response means less drug. So we can use that response to see whether or not it's a high or low amount of cocaine. So I cannot say that there's exactly, say, 120 nanograms per mil of cocaine. However, I can see what the response looks like based on what comes from our testing.
So is that a no? You can't give us a level?
I cannot give an exact quantitative level for the cocaethylene.
Now, let's talk about what you were speaking with the prosecutor about in regards to, I think you said 8,000 nanograms per milliliters, is that right?
Approximately, adding those two numbers together, yes.
Okay. Now, is that the way that you would have calculated how much of that metabolite or cocaine, parent cocaine, was in that person's body or in that matrix?
And so our laboratory actually does not quantify, does not test for EME, as I mentioned previously. So this is not a practice that I would do on our cases because we don't have that data. I was asked whether I'm familiar with that practice, and I am familiar with that practice, but it's not something that I personally do.
That's not what you would do. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I was not, so as a forensic toxicologist, in addition to the testing that we do, oftentimes we're asked to render an expert opinion. And as you sit and prepare for that expert opinion, that's something to consider as part of that process. I was not asked to do that as part of this case. So I would have to, and every case is different. You can't say that necessarily you're going to, because the drugs you find in every case are different. You have to take cases and evaluate them on a case-by-case basis. So it's really hard for me to sit here and speculate what I would have done because I wasn't asked to do it.
Okay, well, you're a forensic toxicologist, correct?
Correct.
You are the director of a toxicology lab, are you not?
Yes.
You've had significant training in forensic toxicology.
Yes.
So I'm asking you, as an expert, if you were trying, giving you a hypothetical, you're given a case, and you're trying to determine how much parent cocaine is in a matrix, in this instance, someone's blood, would you utilize the method of combining the parent cocaine and EME?
So I think I would consider that, again, because that is a process that's out there. I certainly would not use that definitively. I would understand that that's a way of looking at kind of a generality, but definitely not anything definitive.
Exactly, because with all of your expertise and training, that is not a method you would use.
Yes, as I've stated.
Now let's hypothetically utilize that method and come up with a number of 8,000 as apparent cocaine in someone's blood, okay? The pharmacokinetics that you would utilize to try to determine how much cocaine that person took at a certain time, how much cocaine would that equate to, sir, if we were to go back 24 hours?
Yeah, there's not really a way to correlate the amount of drug in this case to the amount that an individual would take. It's not, you can't say just because there's 8,000 nanograms per ml of cocaine there's not, or there was X amount of dose that the person ingested originally. That's not something that we would do in forensic toxicology to try to back calculate a dose.
So then are you telling this jury that you cannot so first you said that's not a method you would use. And so you're now saying that there would be no way to try to ascertain how much cocaine that person originally took. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, through the training that we have as forensic toxicologists, we generally do not train individuals on how you would calculate a dose of a drug that someone used. Certainly through someone's expert opinion and training, they may try to do that, but that's not something that we typically do in forensic toxicology, to try to calculate a dose.
So what is pharmacokinetics?
So pharmacokinetics is the way that your body processes a drug. So it's broken down into 3 different areas: absorption, which is how the drug is absorbed into your body; distribution, which is how it's distributed throughout your body; metabolism, so breaking down cocaine to its metabolites; and then excretion through the kidneys into the urine. So pharmacokinetics is that process of what's happening in the body to a drug, and it's a very vast field. There's a lot of other parts of pharmacokinetics as well.
What is it used for?
So in forensic toxicology, a lot of the substances we deal with are not legal. You can't give them to humans. So a lot of times when we think about pharmacokinetics, especially for substances of abuse, we would look at pharmacokinetic studies generally in maybe a rat, and we'd see, well, how much drug was given to the rat, how much drug we were able to detect if we collected the rat's blood, how much of the drug was excreted through the rat's urine. There are some substances that are used in humans, like cocaine. I mentioned previously that there were studies looking at individuals ingesting capsules of cocaine, and through that same process you can look at then peak plasma concentrations, as I mentioned, metabolites, all those different aspects.
So you'll agree with me then that pharmacokinetics is sometimes used to try to determine a dose amount?
I would not say pharmacokinetics is used to determine a dose. That I don't think that would be the correct way to state that.
Well, how would you state it?
So I mean, the only time that this is really done in forensic toxicology is with alcohol. So you can look at, and you may be familiar with this, but you can look at, based on the amount of ethanol in someone's system, you can back extrapolate to potentially how many beers or how many shots or how many glasses of wine they took. The reason we can do that with alcohol is because of its pharmacokinetics and its linear elimination from the body. In the world of other drugs on humans, I'm really not aware of any pharmacokinetic properties or calculations that you would do to correlate those drug concentrations back to the dose. And in this case, the blood concentrations of cocaine back to an exact dose of cocaine consumed.
So you're stating that it is never utilized to try to determine a dose, pharmacokinetics is never utilized in your field to try to determine a dose of cocaine? Is that your testimony, yes or no, sir?
So I am not in a forensic case like this. I am not aware.
As I said, ever. Is pharmacokinetics ever utilized to determine a dose of cocaine?
Well, as I mentioned before, in terms of a rat study, actually this can be, there are certain research studies where they may look at in the hospital trying to see how much, if they can control the amount of urine that is collected over a certain amount of time and do quantitative testing on that urine. There are some research studies that would look at trying to then calculate back the dose of a certain drug that was consumed. So there are aspects of forensic toxicology where that may come up. But in terms of a case like this, where you're looking at drugs for a legal case, that's a whole different realm from what we're talking about today.
So your answer, the answer to my question is yes, it has been done.
Yes, it has been done, but again, under the different premises that I mentioned.
But is your testimony in a case like this, you should not do that? Is that right?
It is my opinion that if I was asked to calculate the dose of cocaine consumed, that is not something that I would do.
And so then, based on your testimony, there is nothing we can do to try to determine the apparent amount of cocaine that was in her system at the time of ingestion.
Well, now you're asking two different things. The dose of cocaine would be the amount of cocaine outside the body that is then ingested in whatever form you want to ingest it. The amount of cocaine circulating in blood is a whole different thing from the dose. That's not the dose. That would be the circulating concentration of the cocaine.
I wasn't speaking about this, sir. I was speaking about trying to determine the amount of cocaine that Ms. Benning would have had to take in order to have the numbers that we see in her blood. I'm asking you a simple yes or no for this jury. Is there a way to try to make that determination, sir? Yes or no?
Yeah. So I think I'm getting confused because you're talking about the 8,000 nanogram amount, and these are really two separate things. Yes.
Don't worry about the 8,000. Simply listen to my question.
Let me ask it maybe in a more quicker way. Can you tell us whether she took an ounce, 2 ounces, or a kilo?
There would be calculations to potentially rule out really large amounts or really small amounts. I don't think that there is not a calculation to get an exact amount in the middle. To answer the question.
And so there are calculations to make an assumption.
Yes, and in a hypothetical world, to make an assumption, yes, I believe someone could do that.
And what would they use to do that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of factors. I mean, there's factors in terms of, right, you'd have to look at you'd probably take some sort of concentration that you're starting with from what we would detect. There'd be different parameters within the body, understanding, was this a larger or a smaller individual? Did they have potentially a lot of blood, a little bit of blood? What is their different physiological parameters of them? Time is a really important thing.
I'm not asking about the factors. I'm asking about what would you call it? If it's not pharmacokinetics, in order to get to that answer, what would you call it?
Okay, so I would call it that it would be some sort of pharmacokinetic calculation, but it is not the entire field of pharmacokinetics.
Well, so then you can use pharmacokinetics to try to get to an assumption. as to what amount of cocaine she took, correct?
Sure, yes, somebody could, in theory, do that.
Thank you. So, in regards to that, have you done that calculation for this case?
No, as I previously stated, that would not be something that I would consider doing.
Now, and a number of, well, let me ask you this. What is a half-life of cocaine?
So the half-life is defined as the amount of time it takes for a concentration to half. So say, for example, at 1 hour it's 800, and at 2 hours it's 400. The number is halved. Over 1 hour, the half-life would be 1 hour. And you would expect then the half-life to continue. 400 down to 200, down to 100.
Okay, so what is the half-life for cocaine?
I do not have that number off the top of my head. That's not something we typically would memorize.
Okay, but you will agree with me, there is a half.
Correct. There is a half-life of cocaine. I just don't have it off the top of my head.
And would you utilize that half-life if you were to employ the methods of pharmacokinetics to try to get to a number? I know it may not be accurate, but would you utilize that half-life?
Yes. If you were going to do this back calculation, one of the things in that equation that you would use, I would imagine, would be half-life. Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you. As you sit here today, the number that you see on that NMS lab that's with the CFSRE lab ending in 889, you'll agree with me that I believe it's, 78? Is that right?
Yeah, so the econyl methyl ester concentration is 7,800.
No, the parent cocaine, is it 78?
Oh, I apologize. Yes, the parent cocaine concentration is 78, yes.
And that number in and of itself is not just an abnormal high number, is it?
No, but again, this was not something
All I'm asking is about the parent cocaine and that number 78. That's not an abnormally high number, is it? Yes or no, sir?
No, it's not that 78 alone is not a large amount, but again, there's a lot of factors that would go into it, and I've not reviewed this, so I'm not exactly sure sort of the time course of this.
I wasn't asking about the time, I was just asking about that number.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you'll agree with me also that that number 78 is in fact a number that someone could take on their own. Yes or no, sir?
Well, certainly cocaine can be taken on its own by an individual, yes.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Kwiatkowski, Dr. Carney had testified that she adds the EME to the parent cocaine to estimate the total amount of cocaine level before it began creating the NE or breaking it down. Do you agree that that is a common method to use to estimate the value?
Yeah, so one thing I didn't explain, cocaine is a very unique drug. It's actually quite unstable. It can go through different processes of breaking down by enzymes or through hydrolysis. And it can break down to things like benzoylecgonine and econyl methyl ester. So because cocaine is sort of so unique, there have been different research studies looking at saying, okay, well, because we know it's an unstable drug, is there a way that through different calculations we could potentially estimate how much cocaine was present at the time the blood sample was collected, rather than a few days or weeks or months later when that cocaine broke down?
And your testimony as a toxicologist is that you would not estimate that value because your testing is very precise, but you don't disagree with Dr. Carney using that.
Correct.
value.
I'm not disagreeing with Dr. Carney. Right.
And the state never asked you to calculate a dose, but you can't calculate the dose Ms. Benning ingested. Judge asked you about an ounce or a kilo, but it could have been much smaller than that, especially if it was dissolved in a liquid. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, one of those factors is, as I mentioned previously, time. There's also, a lot of times if you're going to do some of these pharmacokinetic studies, there's assumptions you're going to make. One assumption being that this was likely a healthy individual, normal processes, their heart was beating, their blood was flowing. If you're outside of those normal processes, some of these calculations start to break down. So again, I was not asked to do that. And again, it's a very complex process, and I just don't believe that that's something that would really be I don't think you could probably do it with the information that I have and the understanding I have.
That's what I was about to ask you. You cannot calculate the dose, Ms. Benning and Justin.
Correct.
Thank you. Those are all my questions, Your Honor.
Now, you stated now, when I asked you the question, you told me that that was not a method you would use because it wouldn't be a definitive method. Are you changing your answer now?
Right. So when you say definitive,
No, you said definitive.
oh, sorry. When we use the word definitive, for example, in this case, when you have 78 and 7800, I don't think it would be wise to put the two of those together and definitively say 7,778. If you're going to use it as an estimation for the amount, that's one thing. But using the word definitive here, in my mind, that says to say exactly what this concentration is. And again, that's not. I don't know exactly what Dr. Carney's testimony was, but that's what I meant by not being definitive.
Actually, I think you said in a legal case like this, you would not utilize that type of method to get a definitive answer.
I believe I said that based on the calculation of the dose when you asked me.
By adding EME and the parent, right?
He's talking about your questions when you wanted to see if he could determine a dose.
No, my question was to determine the parent
What is your
amount
question?
of cocaine. I want to be clear that you're saying if we were trying to determine the parent amount, we would not take the EME and the parent amount and put them together.
So again, I want to just make sure we're taking these two things apart. And we're not talking about dose. So now we're talking about circulating amount of drug in the body. And in this case, taking the parent amount of cocaine and then the substance that the cocaine broke down into, understanding that those two substances are related and doing an estimate based on that is something completely different. And that's what I was just asked by the prosecution. Again, this is completely separate from the question of dose, how much someone ingests.
And when you were talking about the CFSRE record that did not show the fentanyl, and that would be 202300092, this was an opiate screen, was it not?
So our testing for
Yes or no, sir? Was this an opiate screen?
so
One, you're way beyond what was asked on redirect. So number two, let him answer the question.
So the testing that we performed on both urine samples includes opiates and opioids.
So this was in fact an opiate screen?
So I would not characterize the testing that we did as an opiate screen. We consider it sort of a broad-based drug screen that includes opiates and opioids, as it does stimulants, benzodiazepines, and everything else. So if fentanyl was present in the first urine sample, it was in the scope of testing, and if we would have detected it, we would have reported it.
Okay, so I just want to be clear, it would have, if fentanyl, if it was there, it would have been positive.
If fentanyl was present in the first urine sample, case 20230092, if it was present at levels detectable by our analysis, yes, it would have been reported.
So it could have been there, but it just wasn't at your detectable level.
Yes, that's how forensic toxicology testing works. As I mentioned with the levamisole and the cocaethylene, if something is below our threshold for detection, right, we would not be able to detect it, therefore not report it.
I just wanted to be clear so that the jury
What is your
understood
question?
is that it was possible it was there, but it just wasn't above the level.
Correct, and we have a pretty low detection level for fentanyl. I don't know what it is exactly off the top of my head. I'd have to go look it up.
Any other questions?
No, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Step back. And can Dr. Mikulski be excused?
This date is done with Dr. Mikulski.
We will say subject to